I've been troubled lately. Emily has been ignoring me all this time. In the midst of this, James had to go on a business trip. Please get along with Emily, okay? You're her mother after all, he told me before quickly leaving the house. Emily probably doesn't think of me as her mother. Just as I was thinking about this, Emily approached me. Mom. We need to escape right now. What? My name is Michelle. I'm 45 years old this year. I live with my husband James and his daughter Emily, a family of 3. I met James at a party. Until then, I hadn't had any good experiences with men and had been living alone. In my 20s, my parents constantly nagged me about marriage and grandchildren, but after I turned 36, they stopped mentioning it altogether. They must have given up on me getting married. I wasn't particularly eager to get married either, so I wasn't in a rush. My turning point came 2 years ago when I suddenly fainted. It happened during a particularly busy time at work, so I think I just passed out from exhaustion. But for me at the time, it was a frightening experience. If I had remained unconscious, it could have been serious. Living alone, there was a possibility that no one would notice. When I realized this, I decided to start looking for a partner. Having someone around in an emergency would be reassuring. Plus, I could probably enjoy my later years more. With this in mind, I started attending matchmaking parties. I worked hard at dating between my work commitments. At first, I didn't know what I was doing and faced nothing but rejection. But after attending several events, I met James. We hit it off immediately during our first meeting and successfully matched as a couple. I was over the moon at the time. After the party, James hesitantly confessed to me. Actually, there's something I haven't told you yet. He said he was divorced and living with his daughter. I divorced my ex-wife when our daughter was still young. I'm looking for someone who can be a mother figure for my daughter. He explained apologetically. I had never given birth, and honestly, I didn't really know how to be a mother. But I thought I could be a friend-like mother figure. Besides, I had no intention of having children of my own. Given my age, I had already given up on that. But the thought of being able to raise a child after having given up on the idea made me happy. I'll be a mother to your daughter, I declared. James looked surprised at my announcement. Then he smiled. Thank you, he said, his eyes glistening with tears. Seeing James's tearful smile, I felt an unfounded confidence that everything would be all right with him. After getting married, we immediately started living together. Our home was the house where James and his daughter Emily lived. James had apparently purchased the house when he first got married. He said it had a 35-year mortgage. The house was filled with reminders of Emily's mother, Kimberly. Family photos including Kimberly were displayed in frames. There were also many of Kimberly's belongings left in the house. I was surprised to even find her half-used cosmetics. I couldn't help but tell James, "Don't you think there are too many of your ex-wife's things here?" Kimberly's toothbrush was in the bathroom, leaving no room for mine. And her shoes were still in the shoe cabinet, so I couldn't put mine away. James laughed at my desperate plea.
Can you imagine making $10,000 a month just from YouTube, all from home? That's exactly what I did with Reddit Stories. No face, no voice. Check the link in the description if you're curious.
What's the big deal? It's fine to have my ex-wife's toothbrush around. Just her toothbrush. I was confused by James's statement. It was strange that Kimberly's toothbrush was still there when they were supposedly divorced. But no matter how much I pointed this out, James wouldn't listen. Kimberly is Emily's mother, right? I want to keep her things for Emily's sake. It would make Emily sad if I threw away her mother's mementos. When he put it that way, I couldn't say anything more. So I had to give in. Since I couldn't keep my things at his house, I kept my old apartment as is. I owned the apartment so there was no rent, but something still didn't feel right. Plus, I had left my work equipment there, so I would go back to my apartment during the day to work. Perhaps because of this lifestyle, Emily and I haven't gotten close. Our relationship remains distant. I was thinking about this while cooking in the kitchen when Emily came out of her room, so I greeted her with a smile. "Emily, dinner's ready." But there was no reply from Emily. She sat at the table in silence. Maybe she still couldn't accept her new mother. Thinking this, I decided not to force myself on Emily and just go with the flow. Then one day, I received an unexpected proposal from James. Split the mortgage. Yes, with Emily's cram school fees, things are pretty tight, James said, pleading with his hands together. That's quite sudden. I was confused by James's abrupt request. I was already maintaining a dual lifestyle by keeping my old apartment. I was still paying utilities there too. And in this house, I was covering the cost of food and daily necessities. "Michelle, I want you to be a domestic woman. I like watching you do housework. You're good at saving money, so it's only natural that you can manage with your money, right?" Since James said it so matter-of-factly, I mistakenly thought it was correct. So all payments at supermarkets and drugstores came out of my wallet. James surely uses more toilet paper than I do. Something didn't feel right. And I also didn't like sleeping in the bed that Kimberly had used. So I would make dinner, clean up, and then return to my apartment to sleep. I basically only came to James's house to prepare breakfast and dinner, and do housework like laundry and cleaning while I was there. Given this situation, asking me to pay half the mortgage was an unreasonable request. When I showed reluctance, James's mood immediately soured. "We're married, but you won't live in this house. Now you're like a visiting wife. I think you should show some respect for me tolerating this." I could only be confused by James's argument. His claim was nonsensical. After all, when I asked to dispose of Kimberly's things, James opposed it. There was no way I could live in this house without my own room or even a place to put my futon. The house was that full of Kimberly's belongings. Yet James didn't understand this at all. Instead, he presented me with an impossible demand. "Choose right now, divorce me or pay half the mortgage." He said this with a straight face. I couldn't choose divorce, having just gotten married. My parents would be devastated. Although I didn't agree at all, I had no choice. "Fine. I'll pay half the mortgage," I forced myself to answer. James then smirked and said, "I knew you'd say that. For now, $500 will do. Pay up quickly," extending his hand. With no choice, I gave him $500. James took it as if it was only natural. "I've received $500. It's nice when money can solve problems, isn't it? Make sure to have it ready next month too," he said. Then James left in high spirits. I could only sigh at his behavior. Suddenly feeling a gaze, I looked toward the living room and saw Emily staring at me. "What is it?" I called out to her, but Emily returned to her room without answering. A husband making unreasonable demands and a stepdaughter who ignores me. What's going to happen from now on? I stood there for a while, feeling that the future looked bleak. This situation continued for a year. I've been troubled lately. Emily still keeps ignoring me. It seems problematic that I haven't been able to get close to Emily even after being married to her father for a year. James initially married me saying, "Be a mother figure for Emily." All I can do for Emily now is housework. Aren't I just a convenient housekeeper? And lately, James has been making more unreasonable demands. He started asking me for money on every occasion. At first, it was just grocery shopping and half the mortgage, but recently I've somehow ended up paying for James's dining out expenses too. And James's behavior has gradually worsened. He used to speak to me gently when we first married, but lately his tone has become quite rough. I need to go out drinking to relieve stress. It's a wife's job to maintain her husband's mental health. Spouting such logic, he would take money from my wallet. On bad days, he took over $1,000. Because of this, recently only Emily eats the meals I prepare. But even Emily doesn't try to talk to me. Can we really call this a family? I was seriously wondering if I should continue living with them. James just pushes all the housework onto me and extorts money, without any gratitude. He acts as if it's only natural to have me do these things. Even though we're married, there are things that are acceptable and those that aren't. That's what I was thinking deep down. But I hesitate to get divorced. The reason is Emily. It's probably not good for Emily's environment to keep changing. Plus, James doesn't really pay much attention to Emily. If I leave this house, what will happen to Emily? She might end up having to do all the housework herself. I was worried about putting such a burden on Emily, who is still a student. In the midst of this, James had to go on a business trip. According to James, his boss ordered him to go on a 1-week overseas inspection. I heard about this on the day of his departure. It was too sudden. Please get along with Emily, okay? You're her mother after all, he told me before quickly leaving the house. However, his clothes were casual, and a guidebook was sticking out of his bag. I doubt it was really a business trip. Emily still ignores me, so she probably doesn't think of me as her mother. Just as I was thinking about this, Emily approached me. I spoke to her. He's gone, isn't he? What should we have for dinner? I was sure Emily wouldn't answer. After all, I'd never had a conversation with Emily since coming to this house. But this day was different. Emily opened her mouth to speak to me. Mom. We need to escape right now. And Emily took my hand. I didn't understand why Emily would suddenly say such a thing. I was confused and stood frozen on the spot. Mom, are you okay? I know this is sudden and shocking, but it's dangerous to stay here. We need to escape now. Emily kept urging me. After that, I left the house with almost nothing. Even so, I hardly had any belongings in this house anyway. Just some groceries and daily necessities I had bought. Thinking about it, I really was just a convenient person for my husband. And with that, I returned to my apartment. Emily came with me. She didn't bring much either. Just one Boston bag. And in my apartment, I heard about James's secret from Emily. You're kidding. I turned pale with shock. It's understandable that you'd feel that way, but that's the kind of man he is, Emily sighed as she said this. What Emily told me was shocking. James and Kimberly were apparently still in a common-law relationship. They had divorced to extract money from people like me who were easy targets. And Emily explained, my mother still lives in that house. You saw her half-used toothbrush, right? She comes back when you're not around. What do you mean? I asked Emily, surprised. My parents divorced, but only on paper. They're actually still close, she said. James still loves Kimberly. When I heard that, I felt like I had been hit on the head. But I forced myself to ask Emily, then why did James marry me? If he loves Kimberly, there would be no reason for him to marry me. Emily then revealed something astonishing. Actually, my father has a lot of debt. Since he's unemployed, he has no way to repay it. And my mother doesn't work either. So my father decided to divorce my mother and find a woman who could be a source of income. Wait, what do you mean James is unemployed? I was confused by Emily's statement. James was supposedly away on a business trip. Was even that a lie? Emily looked at me with pity and said, my father has been unemployed all along. Even now, he's traveling with an older woman who might give him a lot of money. You've been deceived all this time. I was stunned. I never thought James would be lying. James has a lot of debt but doesn't want to work. He used to borrow money even for entertainment. Because of that, his debts kept growing. On top of that, there's the house mortgage. So he came up with the idea of extracting money from a new spouse. He makes his new partner pay for the mortgage and living expenses. And James himself is cheating with other women and getting money from them too. He only truly loves Kimberly, the other women are just for money. James is a terrible man. Not just to me, but to other women too. I felt anger rising toward James. He's an enemy to women. And then, Emily casually dropped a bombshell. My mother is very jealous. So it wouldn't be surprising if she harms you anytime. Really? When I heard more from Emily, it seemed Kimberly wasn't satisfied with the divorce from James. However, Kimberly didn't want to work either, so she reluctantly agreed to the divorce in the end. But Kimberly still loves James a lot. James has a fresh appearance and looks like he would be popular with older women. Emily spoke hesitantly. Actually, there was someone before you who was also supposed to be my mother figure. She wasn't legally married to my father, though. But one day, she suddenly disappeared. Maybe she got tired of James and ran away. I thought that was the most straightforward explanation. If they weren't legally married, it would be easy to break up with James. Plus, with Kimberly's things all over the house, it would be natural to get fed up with living there. But Emily revealed something terrible. The thing is, that woman is missing. I was shocked. If they had broken up normally, there would be no need for her to go missing. What happened to that woman? We need to consider this carefully, I murmured. A week later, on the day James was scheduled to return from his business trip, of course, Emily and I were not at his house. Then my phone rang with a call from James. Even though I ignored it, the calls kept coming. He's persistent, I said, and Emily replied, my father thinks of you as a good source of money. He won't give up easily. After that, James called many more times, but I continued to ignore him. And that evening, the intercom rang. Who could it be? When I looked at the intercom monitor, James was there. I have no idea how James found out about this apartment. But my apartment building has an auto-lock system. So unless I unlock it, there's no worry about James coming to my door. However, leaving him there would inconvenience other residents. Reluctantly, I decided to talk to James through the monitor. What do you want? How did you find this place? I asked through the intercom, and James shouted angrily, that doesn't matter. Hey! What the hell is this? James thrust some documents toward the monitor. They were a certified letter from a law firm and a divorce paper with all my sections filled out. The envelope from the lawyer must have arrived in his mailbox. I told James, I want a divorce, so I contacted a law firm. From now on, please communicate through the law firm. But James wouldn't accept it. Instead, he raised his voice even more. Why the sudden divorce? You said you would be Emily's mother. Are you betraying my precious daughter Emily? He said desperately. I was exasperated by James's behavior. Despite calling her his precious daughter, he hadn't even noticed that Emily had left the house. I let out a big sigh. James turned on me. You're sighing while I'm talking about Emily. What kind of mother are you? Just come back home for Emily's sake. Do the laundry and cleaning. And give me the mortgage money. In the end, all James wanted from me was labor and money. He just wanted a convenient person who would contribute money and take care of the house. Then Emily, who had been standing behind me, stepped forward and began to speak. Dad, I'm right here. You didn't even notice your precious daughter was gone. Are you really my father? James was very disturbed to find Emily here. Emily. Why are you here? His voice was shaking, it was quite unexpected for him. Emily told him, I thought it would be dangerous for her to stay in that house. My mother has a very clingy personality. I'm here to protect her safety and because I want to get away from you. I hate men like you who seduce women for money. And I hate my mother who is jealous but tolerates your behavior for her own living. Emily seems to have a strong aversion to them. Unaware of Emily's feelings, James began trying to persuade her. Emily, let's go home together. It's lonely being in such a big house alone. I'm not going back to that dangerous house. I'll live here, Emily refused. Then James turned on me. Michelle. It's your fault Emily won't come home. If this continues, you'll be a kidnapper. If you don't want that, bring Emily back home immediately. James shouted at me. So I told him, I won't become a kidnapper. You and Emily aren't related by blood. You're a stranger, not her real parent. You're just a kidnapper. James declared boldly, which made me really angry. He had asked me to be a mother figure to Emily, and now this attitude. It was truly exasperating. He must love himself the most. So I explained to make James understand, actually, at this point, since our divorce isn't finalized yet, Emily and I aren't strangers. Then as soon as we divorce, you'll be strangers. You'll be a kidnapper, a criminal, the moment I submit this divorce paper, he said, waving the divorce papers in front of the monitor. How classless could this man be? Exasperated, I told him, haven't you looked at the contents of the envelope from the law firm? Emily and I are going to adopt each other. What? Adoption? Yes. Emily and I have decided to become parent and child through adoption. Normally, Emily should be under the protection of her parents. However, both James and Kimberly are extremely irresponsible as parents. I judged that Emily would be able to live more securely if she became my child, so I proposed it to her. And Emily gladly agreed. I declared to James, make sure you read all the documents from the law firm. The adoption is clearly written there. Goodbye. Wait a minute. James seemed quite disturbed by the mention of adoption. What else? I asked in a cold tone, and James desperately appealed, Emily is my only child. If Emily is gone, what will happen to me in my old age? I was disgusted. In the end, James just wanted to keep Emily by his side to take care of him in his old age. There wasn't a shred of parental love. That's not my problem. It's wrong to rely on your children for your old age care in the first place. Why don't you work hard yourself? I don't intend to have Emily take care of me in my old age just because we're living together. But James said, don't be so righteous. Didn't you take in Emily to have her take care of you in your old age too? I wish he would stop assuming I'm the same as him. If needed, I'll go into a facility, so don't worry about me. What? A facility? Do you know how much that costs? Your income alone wouldn't be enough. What does this man know about me? I stated clearly, I have savings, and I bought this apartment myself. After all, I am Michelle Miller, the novelist. Michelle Miller? James said with a puzzled face. But suddenly, Emily shouted with joy, what? Michelle Miller, the famous novelist. Wasn't one of her original works made into a movie recently? I've read some of her books. Then Emily started questioning me, ignoring James completely. Is she that famous? James muttered, but Emily completely ignored him. After bombarding me with questions for a while, Emily turned to James and spoke regretfully, Dad, what a waste. Mom probably receives over $100,000 in royalties alone. She could easily pay off your debts. But you've thrown it all away. Poor you, left with just debt. Emily said to James, looking down on him pitifully. It was clear she was looking down on him. But James seemed desperate after hearing about debt repayment. He didn't seem to mind Emily's attitude and begged me, please, Michelle. Give me another chance. James bowed his head desperately through the intercom monitor. But this was just a performance from James. He had treated me terribly all this time. If I forgave him now, he would surely try to extract money from me again. So I will never forgive him. I gave James my final words, "We're over. Goodbye." By the way, how did you find out about this apartment? I asked James, who looked dumbfounded, something that had been bothering me. Actually, someone has been following you all along. This location was told to me by that person, James said, seemingly reluctant to explain. It's my mother, Emily murmured, turning pale. The thought of being followed by Kimberly every time was truly terrifying. If Emily hadn't taken me out of the house at that time, something terrible might have happened. I'm really glad Emily led me away. James is to blame for the dangerous situation I was in without knowing. Yet James said, "I've answered, so unlock the autolock." Does he still think he can be forgiven? I delivered the final blow to James. "Why don't you go to your beloved Kimberly?" "Oh, but that's impossible now." James reacted to Kimberly's name. "How do you know about Kimberly? What do you mean it's impossible?" "The woman who lived with you before me, who went missing. Kimberly was involved, wasn't she? She should be under police interrogation now." "What? What does that mean?" "I testified to the police," Emily stated calmly. "Emily? Why would you do such a thing?" James couldn't believe Emily's words. He never imagined his own daughter would turn on him. Actually, Kimberly was a key person of interest in the case of the missing woman. To be safe, I had asked a detective agency to investigate the incident. It turned out that the woman was no longer in this world, and the police were conducting a private investigation. On the surface, she was listed as missing, but the police considered the case highly suspicious. The detective's investigation revealed this, and Emily said she would tell the police everything Kimberly had done. Respecting Emily's feelings, I agreed, and together we went to the police station to explain the situation. "My mother must be suspicious. She's jealous and loves my father very much. She would probably stop at nothing to have him." Some of the things were so serious that they could have led to disaster, leaving the police speechless. Based on Emily's testimony, the police decided to question Kimberly. She must be undergoing tough interrogation by now. "Oh no, if Kimberly is gone too, James seemed quite shocked by my explanation, but I think he has more urgent concerns. "James, you might also be questioned. Emily just called the police. They should be here soon. They said they'd be here in 5 minutes. At this rate, you'll be arrested too, won't you?" Emily seemed very pleased. "The police? You've got to be kidding. I'm leaving now. See ya." James hastily departed. As he left, he tripped over nothing. "Dad, how pathetic," Emily said. Emily and I laughed together at James's pitiful figure. Afterward, my divorce from James was finalized. James was quite reluctant when he learned about my income. But our married life was already virtually broken, and there was Emily's testimony about Kimberly's case. In the end, James had no choice but to give up. According to the lawyer, James signed the divorce papers with a bitter face. James ended up being questioned by the police, but he was not involved in the missing woman's case. However, James had been extracting money from other women by falsely claiming to be single when he was actually married. Many of his victims were older women, and some were quite serious about James. Some had invested their entire fortune in him. As a result, James is receiving additional questioning for other crimes. He probably won't be released for a while. His difficulties are likely to continue for some time after his release from police custody. A victims' association consisting of several women has been formed. The women plan to sue James as a group. Some of the victims apparently have video and audio evidence, so James won't be able to talk his way out of it. This is all punishment for disrespecting women. I hope James will properly atone throughout his life. Kimberly eventually confessed her crime during police questioning. As suspected, she was the cause of the woman's disappearance. It was a crime motivated by jealousy over James. I honestly feel nothing but regret for the woman who is no longer in this world because of Kimberly's selfish thoughts. There seem to be other crimes as well, so it can be assumed that Kimberly won't be out for quite some time. Emily and I should be able to live in peace for the foreseeable future. I hope they reflect deeply on what they've done. 5 years have passed since then. Emily is working hard as a working adult. I was very worried that she might have been emotionally scarred by the shocking events. However, contrary to my concerns, Emily seems completely fine. I can't forgive my parents, but thanks to them, I met you, so I'm grateful for that at least, she says with a smile, which makes me happy. I once asked Emily why she had ignored me. She replied with a pained expression, "I was friendly with the person who went missing." My mother became jealous when she saw that. Emily looked down as she said this. "Emily, you did nothing wrong," I immediately embraced her. She had deliberately ignored me to protect me. I almost cried at Emily's kindness. Being married to James is honestly a stain on my life. However, thanks to my marriage with James, I gained such a wonderful daughter. Emily is adorable as a daughter, and even though we don't look alike, I feel our personalities are similar. People who know nothing about our background have said our smiling faces look identical. There may be many challenges ahead, but I want to overcome them together with Emily each time.